Hello, hello. Thanks to all who are watching live right now. Appreciate you taking some time out of your day here to watch. And also to those watching the recording, thanks as well. I am really looking forward to speak today with Darren and Patrick, who I'll introduce to you in a minute here. First of all, if you don't know who I am, my name is John, and I'm the CEO of StubGroup. StubGroup is a premier digital advertising agency, and we help businesses dominate paid advertising and make money online. And today I'm joined by not one, but two fine gentlemen from NetReputation.com. NetReputation is America's largest online reputation company. And today we're joined by Darren. Darren is the Vice President of Reputation Management Operations at NetReputation. And Patrick is the Vice President of Strategic Accounts. Patrick, Darren, thanks so much for joining today.
Thanks, John.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Thanks, John. Nice to be on.
So I think today's conversation is going to be very relevant to pretty much any sized business. And the reason I say that is from personal experience, because here at StubGroup, we work with clients of all different sizes, everything from small local services businesses to national e-commerce companies, multinational SaaS companies, fill in the blank, all different kinds of businesses. But a conversation that I consistently have with these clients is around their online reputation. And the reality is that everyone these days goes online to find solutions to their problems, and everyone goes online to research the providers of those solutions. And so what comes up, what happens when someone types your business name into Google or another search engine is crucial in terms of whether or not they're going to actually go ahead and hire you and buy your product or service that you're selling. So I'd love to dig into that with you, Darren and Patrick here. I think the first question I would ask you is, can you just set the stage and explain what is online reputation management and why is it important for businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. So online reputation management is easily confused with reviews, which reviews are part of your online presence and the interactions that other people have with your business. But we're talking about when someone goes to your business's website to engage with your services or products, what do they do afterwards? Sometimes they'll get on a call. Sometimes they'll send an email. They wait for the responses. Sometimes they're just looking at your products and going through your website. And before they make that final decision, they go and open up another tab and they start to search to see, well, what other people have to say about this company? And they're looking at reviews, but they're also looking at what shows up in the search results. Because if I search your company name and I don't see anything else show up except for your company name, only, just your website, I'm going to wonder, well, why do you have no other presence? Are you hiding? Is there issues with your company that, you're trying to avoid? Or is this like one of those turn and burn type companies? And so the customer journey these days have become more intelligent because people have been burned so many times now over the last several decades that they want to know, are they dealing with a legitimate company?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other part of that is now they want to know who runs the company. Who's the CEO? Who's in charge of this company? Who are the VPs? And so now they're looking at this information too to see what information they can find about these people. And believe it or not, we'll have companies contact us to say, well, I am the CEO or I'm the VP. And when people search my name, they're seeing that I committed some kind of immoral act or something that, that looks horrendous to them. And now they don't want to engage with the company at all.
Mm.
So it's defining what people see and controlling what people can see is what ORM really is.
Awesome. Thanks for defining that. For those businesses who are watching and who saying, hey, I've got good reviews online, like I've got a good reputation online, I don't have a big crisis I'm trying to work through or not. Is online reputation management applicable to them? Is there still value in doing that, even if there's not a specific problem you're trying to solve at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, part of what online reputation management does and the way we provide the service, it's almost your starting point for SEO. So even if you have SEO going on for your firm, and most companies engage with SEO, which means they're doing backlinks, they're optimizing content on their website, they're doing all these different, metrics to get their keywords rank. The ORM process is what starts SEO in the first place. So sometimes you're doing it backwards because you're doing it after the fact, but having your online presence dialed in with optimizing your own name online within your social media channels and a bunch of several other types of assets and publications and all different things that we do, it reinforces that you are legitimately a company, especially in the eyes of Google. It makes your brand larger on Google, and therefore Google gives up more traffic to you as a result of it. So there's a benefit besides trying to clear up or move down any kind of negatives or prevent negatives. There's a huge SEO benefit to having our services.
And to piggyback off what Darren said, engaging in ORM services, working on establishing a solid digital footprint with your online presence really is going to create a proactive buffer or that proactive firewall. So if something happens in the future, whether it's a competitor coming after you and slandering you online, that buffer is going to prevent that malicious content or harmful content from infiltrating that business's search results.
Yeah, so I think that's a really, both of those are very important points as far as like, it's not just about fixing a problem, but proactively preventing future problems. We've certainly had situations, clients we work with here at StubGroup who get targeted by a competitor and they're putting out, a bunch of fraudulent reviews or things like that. And those start bubbling to the top because those clients aren't also taking those preventative measures to make sure that the correct good stuff is at the top. And like you said, that hurts their perception with Google, and that hurts their perception of the potential customers who, we're spending money to attract them to the website and say, hey, we're a good provider. And then they go do the research and say, oh, I don't trust these people because of these bad reviews or, bad articles or whatever the case may be. So I think that's a really important point.
Yeah, or just the missing information that they can't find. Like, why can't I find this information about you?
Exactly. I think especially too, I mean, with how many fly-by-night companies there are these days, in the e-commerce space in particular, when the pandemic happened and it was just like this massive surge of everyone who thinks they can do drop shipping and doesn't actually have the ability behind the scenes to fulfill on products in so many different areas. A lot of people have been burned with purchasing from companies that don't have history and realizing, oh, they just didn't have the infrastructure, or they were truly a scam to begin with. And so I think that I've certainly seen that personally, become more of a factor with people doing even more research, like you said, to see, do they have a presence? Are they legit? Can I be confident that my money paid to them will result in services coming back to me? Let me ask you a question. I know, like you said, online reputation management is far more than just reviews, but reviews is definitely something that people think a lot about, and specifically bad reviews. And a question I get asked often is, should a business respond to negative reviews that they receive online?
It's a good question. Typically, yes. The quicker that you respond to a review, the better customer experience it can provide. I guess some best practices there, John, are to really take it offline. Acknowledge the review, thank the consumer, thank the client for the feedback. Apologize for the experience and ask them to reach out to you at this address or to DM you, depending on what review site that review was posted on. But yeah, definitely always responding to reviews. It provides a better experience, lets the individual know that there's actually someone behind the logo there. And it's just, it's definitely the best practice. So
that makes a lot of sense. I know I've certainly seen situations where the fact that a business responded to a bad review actually made me like them more than just, seeing that there was a bad review, just seeing how professionally they responded. They clarified the issue. Here's how they're dealing with it. Okay, cool. Like you said, there's someone behind the scenes. It's not just a faceless logo, and they actually care about things and they're on top of things. And they're monitoring their online reputation.
Yeah, definitely. The goal with responding to the review is to let the, acknowledge the client and really take it offline. Try to, set up a phone call or an email thread to rectify the situation. Maybe the business needs to offer some concessions or whatever it may be, but really turn that negative review, turn it into a positive. Help, try to keep that person on as a longtime client.
Absolutely. So let's say that someone watching this right now, or their business owner, they're interested in, okay, hey, it makes sense that my online reputation is important, that it matters, and I want to start working on improving it. What are some of those first steps that you typically recommend businesses would take to, get into this realm of thought?
What you mean? What is their mindset before they come into this? Or
Sorry, realm of thought is not the best phrase. Basically, what are the first steps that a business should take if they want to improve their online reputation?
I mean, from a basic standard, what everyone should have been doing over the last 10 years is, make sure your website has your business name on it, not just a logo, but it's listed at the bottom. And you should have some of your basic standard social media channels set up and connected to your business as well, like a Google Business Panel, a Instagram, a Twitter, a Facebook, a LinkedIn. Those are your really, really basic things that you should have established in place. Though it won't clean up or fix your entire first page of Google, it's a great starting point to do that.
Got it. So get the basics, start with the basics, make sure you're communicating what your business name is, how people can find you, and then kind of go from there. That makes a lot of sense. On the flip side of that, are there any common mistakes that you see businesses make when they start to try to work on these types of things and improve their reputation online?
Yeah, when people are attempting to change their own online reputation, typically there's a big disconnect between social media accounts and advertising on social media. They think because they're advertising on social media that their accounts are set up properly. Those are two different entities, or two different aspects of what you're doing. And then sometimes it's as simple as you set your account to private, or it was already set to private by default, so Google will never index that channel for you. So there's some really basic things that are missed. And then the other misconception I would say is that everyone wants to, as soon as something happens, they want to start putting out press releases. And there are many kinds of publications that you can put out there. Press releases are the ones that have the quickest expiration time online. You put it out, it shows up, it disappears. So it maybe temporarily, puts a little bit of positive light in front of your stuff, but it doesn't move any negatives down, and it doesn't do anything long term.
Interesting. So your recommendation would be to not focus on press releases, but focus on other types of media that are going to be more evergreen and less dated.
Yeah, you gotta get into those harder to reach publications, the ones that, like obviously we have access to many publications like that. And we look at basic SEO standards when we look at these publications too. Do they have on audience? Do they have traffic? Do they have their own authority in Google? How quickly, when something gets published in their publication, does it get indexed into Google? There's some that literally get indexed within hours after publication. It's not bad to do a press release. Those are great as long as the message for a press release it makes sense for it. A press release is an announcement. Stick to the announcement. Stick to what you're launching, what's changing, like the new CEO or the new whatever is happening in my company, let them be those things. Those are great announcements to put out there. These publications, as you said, the evergreen, these will last a lot longer. And if you get a link from those publications to your website, you've just created some backlink authority in a very natural way.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. Are there any tools or methods that you would recommend to businesses to monitor what their reputation is online and see how that's changing, good or bad?
It's interesting. There's really no tools out there for monitoring your online reputation in the way you would think there would be by now. We do have tools ourselves that we have that ability for updates and reports and things like that to give to our clients. But tools out online, I haven't found one that you can use on a regular basis.
Interesting.
That you don't have to do manually on your own. I mean, I think the first step you want to do is search your business online and look at the results. I think most companies don't even take the time to do that. See what you're seeing and say, is this the message I want people to see when they do a search for my business?
Absolutely. No, I think you're right. I think a lot of people just don't even think to do that. They're focused on their website, on what they're doing, etc., and don't really think, okay, well, let me put myself in the shoes of my potential customer and see what things look like. And I would probably add one recommendation on top of that, which is when you go to search your business name, use incognito mode, because you're going to get a much better feel for what the average person sees than what your kind of customized search engine results page looks like, because you've been on your website so many times. Google's like, oh, this person loves this website. Let's show these results to them. But if you use incognito, you're going to get a better sense for just what the average person sees when they Google your name or your name plus reviews, etc.
Yeah, really gives you that fresh search start. So a really basic option would be Google Alerts. Enter your business name there. You're going to get some noise if you have a common business name or common name. You have to kind of search through that, but that'll give you, I guess, the starting point. But yes, if you want really, it's not going to dig through social media accounts, postings, things like that. And that's where our tools come into play, is we can dig through those social listings. We have just a much more robust monitoring solution that we've developed in-house.
That's a great recommendation as well. Fantastic. Speaking of social media, it sounds like the answer is important, but I'll ask you anyway. How important, or in what ways is an up-to-date social media presence important in reputation management? And are there some platforms that are more important than others, or is it, hey, get as many places as you can?
Yeah, it's important to be. You want to strategize anything that you're going to put out online. You want to be intentional about anything you put out online, and you want to know how to connect all the pieces together as well. There's a lot of technical things you can do, which I could spend hours explaining, but a basic term would be schema code, would be one way to connect it. But you have to know how to code that. You have to know what sentiment needs to be in the code for Google to recognize you and your website and all the things that connect you together as well. You think of like history books that we have, they're not considered true historical books unless there's a canon behind it, unless there's proof. There's more than one or two or three or four documents out there that back up what is being stated about something from the past. And that's what makes that book true history. And so Google looks at things similar. They want to see how many of these things are connected. And if they're not linked or connected together properly, then they try to figure it out on their own. And that's why you get a mess when you look up things online.
That's a really good analogy. I haven't really thought of it that way before, but you're basically creating the sources in the footnotes that then Google is leveraging to present a unified message about your company. I'm going to steal that analogy. That's a good one.
No problem.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier in the conversation, you mentioned reports and things that you send to clients of NetReputation. I'd love to hear more about how do you measure the success of your work in the online reputation space?
We try to keep it as really basic as possible. We know most customers can get confused, especially when you get really technical. We literally have green highlights and red highlights on a report to make it as easy as possible. Green means good, red means bad. And so we always monitor all the campaigns that we set up. We have multiple eyes on these things. And what we're looking for is, do we see those negatives moving down where we want them to move down? And are we seeing new positives appear that weren't there before? Those are our simple, basic ways to measure that as well.
Awesome. So just keep it simple, straightforward. Are the good things going up, the bad things going down? It's hard to go wrong.
Yeah,
hard to go wrong with that.
Yeah, definitely. And like Darren said, the more content, the more websites that we've created, the more assets that we've created that are ranking on pages 1 and 2, that's showing success, right? Eventually, if we get every single site on page 1 and page 2, anything that's negative has now been displaced back past page 3. So,
got it. I see we've got a question here from the audience. Carlos, looking through his question, kind of summarizing his question is, are there any strategies you recommend to encourage customers to give good reviews, given that people people are happy to give bad reviews. You know, they're very inclined to give bad reviews. Sometimes it's hard to get people to actually give good reviews. Are there any strategies that you've seen or recommend or encourage to get more of those positive reviews from the customers who've had a good experience with the company?
Yeah, that's a great question. Reviews are everything nowadays, right? More than 90% of people are going to search a business online before contacting them. So it pays to have reviews. Best practices, yeah, it's knowing your clientele. It's making sure that if you are a retail location where you have clients coming in, it's taking a moment to thank the client for their business and asking them to leave a quick review. A lot of companies such as ourselves, we have a QR code scan that we send to our clients, where if the customer is leaving our client's office, the customer can scan the QR code. It takes them right to the review site where they can take a second to leave a review. So it's A, asking the client to leave a review, and then B, it's trying to cut down on all the obstacles that would prevent that client from not leaving a review, right? If you wait until they get home and send them an email, guess what? Life has happened, and they have 3 other things they have to do, and they're not going to get to the review. So it's jumping on that opportunity as soon as you can, once you realize you have a happy client, which is in office or as you're leaving the office. Text messaging is a good way to do it. Email is a little bit slower, but that QR code, if you're a business with walk-ins or insight customers, that QR code is very key. Yeah, it's just, you'd be surprised how many businesses don't even ask their clients to leave reviews. They just wait for the client to do it. Unfortunately, it's not really how human nature works, right? Humans are much more likely to leave a negative review than they are to proactively leave a positive review, even though they've had an amazing experience.
100%.
Just off of that too, it all works the same way with reviews and with negative content out there. People would rather read negative information. If you do a search for someone and you see all these amazing things online, but then you see this one thing, oh, this guy hurt or spit or kicked or did something to somebody, you're going to click on that first. That's just our human nature, right? Like, as Patrick was saying. And one of Carlos's other questions too was also, how do you convince a client after they left a negative review to drop it afterwards? And Patrick touched on that a little bit earlier. You want to get them on the phone, or you want to get them to engage with you in email. Somehow you want to get them communicating with you and let them know that you're very upset as well, that they've had such a bad experience and you want to do everything you can to fix it, and start that communication and figure out what it is that really went wrong. And sometimes people just want to be negative, and that's the bottom line. And sometimes you get negative reviews that aren't even from any of your own clients.
Yes.
So when they're not responsive at all, typically, especially if they spent money with you, I think if I spent money and then they reached out and wanted to fix it, I would want to have a conversation.
Yeah, I love, you look up the reviews of a bookstore and they're like, oh, the pizza here was terrible. I don't think they sell pizza there. Now, you're also 100% right too, in that you could have 99 positive reviews, 1 bad review. You're not applying 1% of your thought process to that 1 negative review. You're going there and like, oh, okay, this is a big deal. It doesn't matter. There's 99 positive ones. You're still thinking through that negative, because, like you said, that's human nature. That's where the brain goes, and that's why it's so important to respond with, deal with every single negative review, even when you have tons and tons of positives that should, in theory, show how great of a client, a business you are. I would, as we kind of probably get closer to wrapping things up here, a couple of follow-up or final questions I have in my mind for you. We've already talked a little bit about, the kind of that relationship between SEO and between online reputation management. But I'm curious to dig a little bit more into that and kind of understand, in terms of the work that you do on behalf of people who hire you. Are you basically saying, okay, we are doing both SEO and ORM? Is it some marriage between the two? Like, how do you think about that and phrase it to clients on your end?
Yeah, no, it's a complete separate approach. ORM is different than SEO, but ORM complements and gives a huge boost and kick for SEO. So and typically these larger companies already have an SEO team in place. They've all been trying to figure out how to fix the negatives, and they're kind of stumped. It's just a complement to what they're already doing. So And I think that's important too, because sometimes the SEO side of the team will get on these calls and they get a little upset or defensive, thinking we're trying to step into their world, and we're not. We're just trying to support them.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
And there's some crossover too, right? So, I know Darren, we've chatted about this before, but engaging your clients to leave these positive reviews and responding to negative reviews, even responding to positive reviews, right? Doing that on a regular basis, at a regular cadence. Google loves that, right? So the more reviews that you have, the more you're responding to your clients' reviews. That's going to help the SEO ranking of what's called the top 3 map pack, local SEO, right? So if someone is searching for ice cream parlor near me, an individual or business that has a lot of reviews, a lot of positive reviews, and a business that is responding to those reviews quickly and thanking the client for the review, they're going to have a much higher success, or they are much more likely to rank in the top 3 map pack. And we know that businesses that show up in the top 3 map pack, they get 54% of the clicks versus the other businesses that do not. So that's where, really focusing on your reviews has a bleed over effect into improving your SEO, your local SEO rankings too.
I think that's an important tie back to, how is SEO and how is online reputation impacting your revenue? Well, getting that many more clicks to your website, or, people coming into your local location, that's where the revenue comes from. And so that's that direct correlation between, like, I think of it as kind of 2 categories. One, it's getting more traffic because you have more visibility. And then 2, it's increasing the conversion rate of the traffic you're already getting for those people who are then going to research you and are, they're more comfortable to work with you based upon what they're seeing. Awesome. Well, are there any emerging trends that you're seeing, maybe AI related, maybe not, that you think are coming down the road in the online reputation management space?
I've actually been seeing it happening for several years now. AI is not new. It's about 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people, now everyone's talking about it. They're thinking, oh, this is all brand new, but it's been going on for a long time. Google's AI has been watching you for 8 years and determining what information needs to show. And a really interesting thing that happens is that you can read Google's terms of services. You can spend months on that stuff. Follow all their guidelines and still won't see the result that you're looking for, because sometimes Google breaks their own rules and they just won't tell you that. So you got to be savvy enough and smart enough to figure out, well, where is it happening? Why is it happening? And a really good example is if you have an arrest, for example, and it got in the news. Even if we put all the positive stuff that we put out there, it doesn't mean it's going to move it down as quickly as someone who has just someone that's got some negative content online. Mm-hmm. It'll still go down over time. But Google wants that negative piece to stand out there as long as possible, even if it breaks all of their terms of service.
Mm-hmm.
And the guidelines. Yeah,
I believe that, especially with all the experience we have on the Google advertising side of things, where we help businesses often who've run into compliance issues where Google's saying, hey, you broke our rules, you're suspended, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's like, guys, no, they didn't. Like, there's no rules broken here. Here's what's going on. And sometimes it's, wait a second, Google's enforcing this rule on this client, but then there's 10 other competitors doing this thing and just having a fine day, not having any problems. So yeah, at the end of the day, the platforms are very, very inconsistent and don't always even do what they say they're going to do, or tell you what they're going to do, especially on the advertising side of things.
Well, I can tell you what's coming down the line, though. Just from my experience of being in this realm since like 2014, as far as ORM, I've been doing the SEO since 2020. The changes that are coming and getting worse and worse is because people are realizing that negative content sticks better than positive content. And it's becoming easier to put negative content out there. You got a lot of people putting things out there on purpose because they know it'll rank. They know it'll harm somebody that they're upset with. It's a very vengeful world. You wouldn't think it was that bad, but it's only getting worse. And kind of going back to what we talked about in the very beginning, this whole preventative approach, it's very important because at some point especially when you're in the world of business, someone is going to get upset with you, and they might figure out how to put that negative piece out there on you. You want to protect yourself as much as possible.
100%. Looks like Carlos has a follow-up question that somewhat relates to this, most specifically. So he says, and what about platforms for customers to leave reviews on? Is Google the place to be, or the more the merrier?
It can be specific to industry, right? So Google's the place to be. But if you are in, if you're a contractor, Angie's List, Home Advisor, those are great places to have reviews. There's some other ones out there. If you're a realtor, realtor.com, Zillow, those are very authoritative, specific to industry. So I'd say Google number one, and then industry specific review sites number two. Trustpilot is a solid all around good review website. Clutch is another good review website. Those are good because there's a vetting process. A lot of them will require that you show them a receipt for your purchase and that you've actually engaged with the business and done business with them. So those are great sites as well, a bit more complex and more difficult to leave a review, more time consuming, but they're great sites as well. But yeah, back to Carlos's main question, Google, it's the number one spot to leave reviews. There's a lot of discussion about Yelp. Yelp is challenging, right? They don't work with ORM providers to help businesses get reviews. In our opinion, Yelp is kind of it's kind of losing its validity. Yeah, I'd just say Google is the main one, and then look for industry-specific review sites.
Yeah, and just to add on top of that too, I mean, if you think about it, where are most searches happening today? It's on Google.
Yep.
I mean, they just own this space. They own their own review platform. They own their own directory platform. They own their own video platform. Anything Google owns, you should be on.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. For better or worse, they have a monopoly on a number of ecosystems, and if you want to be found online, that's where you gotta be these days. Awesome. Well, Darren, Patrick, thank you so much for your time. I know I learned a number of things here. I'm hoping that those watching did as well. Have some great takeaways from the conversation. Where is the best place for people to learn more about NetReputation and to explore working with you guys?
Website netreputation.com has all of our products listed, our contact information. Feel free to go check out our services or products. Give us a call if you have any questions. We'll be happy to help you out if you're in crisis mode or in proactive mode. We can help you either way.
Fantastic. And if you're watching this and need any help on the digital advertising side of things as well, we'd love to help here at StubGroup. You go to StubGroup.com or DM me on LinkedIn, and we'll get a conversation set up. So Darren, Patrick, thanks so much for your time. We'll go ahead and wrap things up here. And thanks to everyone who watched. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. See you guys.